Testing 1 2 3. Testing audio 1 2 3. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8.
Usually with Eddie, because Lauren doesn't always like to go to it. And they always we have to get a babysitter. But no, they have really good food. If they have the same guy from last year, it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
really,
That's cool.
That is so cool.
he was really good in that meeting. He was kind of like the
Good afternoon.
Middle of the
It's 5 p.m. and time for the regular scheduled November 2nd Niagara Parish School Board meeting. Committee as a whole. Board members and visitors, please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices as not to interrupt the meeting. I know that's a normally made announcement, but somehow we seem to forget that. Thanks for your cooperation. And board members, I know I've asked before, but please speak directly into your microphone, and so the public can hear everything that's being said in the meeting. Ms. Revels, can we have a roll call for attendance?
Mr. Danzy, Mr. Matoir. Here. Mr. Benefield,
Here.
Mr. Harris,
Present.
Mrs. McGaskey,
Here.
Ms. Palmer,
Here.
Ms. Phelps,
Here.
Ms. Harvey,
Here.
Mr. Fredu,
Here.
Mr. Nicholson,
Here.
and Ms. Page. We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we get into the superintendent's report, I'd like to encourage all of the voters in District 11, newly formed District 11, which is the Provençal and Clutcheville districts, to support the BRE referendum that we have on the ballot. Early voting starts tomorrow, and it's very, very important that we get this tax passed. The Clutcheville students went to Provençal without funding, and Provençal has been taking it on the chin for the last several years. We'd really like to get that funding reestablished and have these students fully funded. Superintendent, you'd like to comment on that and then take the superintendent report?
Yes, sir. So, I mean, I think over the past 4 years, we've talked ad nauseum about the fact that we only raised about $115,000 at Provençal for BRE, and we, tongue-in-cheek, kind of say that we can't even afford the toilet paper out there. I want to assure you, we have toilet paper out there, but
Only on days that end in Y?
yes, sir.
Okay.
But it is something that we're routinely having to support that school because the BRE just isn't where it needs to be. And we understand that what happened in the past, there may be some hard feelings about that for obvious reasons, but this isn't about supporting a district as much as it is about supporting students and funding them correctly. So I think it's a very good effort. And again, it doesn't go to salaries or central office. This just goes to building, repair, and equipment at Provençal, which directly benefits students.
In the Clutcheville district, the millage will be essentially the same as it was when will be one millage increase.
One millage increase.
7 to 8.
And the folks in Provençal will actually see theirs reduced because they're at 14 and they would go down to 8. So anyone in Provençal who votes for it is effectively voting for a tax reduction. So we don't often bring that type of stuff to the public.
Okay, sir.
But superintendent report, and if you notice, I do have some things itemized there. I'm actually going to ask that y'all give me a chance to reorganize those because we have some student groups here, and I just don't think they probably want to hear some of our really interesting things that we have going on. So I'm going to start with them if y'all can give me that ability. The first group I want to talk to, I feel like Ms. Olson comes up here at least once every 6 months, not because she likes coming to board meetings, but because she's just so prolific and what she does is so amazing. And I think, there's probably not a more respected educator and musician in our area and possibly the state than Ms. Olson. And she has a few folks with her. I'm going to let her talk about them, but I'm going to tell you who they are real quick. First, we have William Conklin. He was very specific. He plays the viola, not the violin. There is a difference. And then we have Xavion Sile, who plays the double bass. And they are going to be performing at Carnegie Hall in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Just a little louder.
I cannot speak really loud.
Turn it up a little bit.
I'm in surgery before 3 weeks ago. I'm just recovering.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
I'm very honored and proud of them students. I worked with them for National Orchestra after the fall semester started. It was very, very difficult, but I appreciate their hard work and the purpose focused followed me, and I really admired that rigorous work. And I will accompany them, of course, February to New York. I will see their activity, what they do. And I'm just many years here in Nakatishi. I think 30 years I am. And there are many talents. If we can nurture them and just keep them work will have a very successful area in art department, and I am very proud of they will represent high school in New York very proudly. Here is a 12th grader William Conklin, and there is 9th grader and Javian Sowell. He is already playing at NSU Orchestra, full member.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
I am at NSU Orchestra assistant director. The real director, Dr. Bakenosa, says he's doing better than our university kids.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much. I know
Thank you all.
it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways, how much of a blessing Ms. Olson has been to this community over her tenure. And it sounds cheesy and maybe exaggeration, but I don't believe it is, that she has changed the trajectory of this community in terms of music and what students have been able to experience and get access to. So we cannot say enough about her, and y'all be safe in New York City. So.
Yeah.
The next group I'd like to call up is Ms. Laura Lyles and Dustin Dozot from the Chamber are here. Our friends over at the Chamber. They represent the A+ Coalition as part of the Chamber. And recently, they gave away their annual grants, their STEAM grants. And they have 3 grants that our local teachers received. We had one from Miss Wendy Worsham at Natchitoches Central. Yep. One for Mr. Jermaine Thomas at NJH. And one for Miss Michelle Shirley at Middle Lab. And I'm gonna throw it over to Miss Lyles, but I think she's gonna get each one of them to kind of briefly tell us what they're using their money for.
Yes, very quickly, we don't have 3 big checks because we're on a budget. So we have one big check for $11,500. So that is the total amount split up between these 3 students. We expanded on our $8,000 limit for that application this year. We didn't have an award winner last year, so we're happy to extend that this year. And we have 3 very deserving educators who are doing amazing things in their own respects, and I asked them to give a very brief synopsis of their project because they can do it better than I can. So.
Hey, good evening. I'm going to use my grant from these guys to increase I teach the emergency medical responder class at Natchitoches Central. And so I've purchased a set of EKG, which students will be able to use it to see what they're doing. They're going to be able to see more in depth of what their actions when they're learning CPR and about the heart, what's actually happening inside the body. So, hopefully it'll lead to a bigger understanding for them.
Awesome, thank you.
Great.
Good evening. This is our second year at NJH running the robotics program, and it has really been a success thus far. What I'm going to do with the money that I was awarded is I'm going to be purchasing a program called the Piper Computer Kit. And basically what that does is it teaches a student how to build a computer from ground zero. They can play games on it. Pretty much they can reap the benefits of their harvest that they've built already. And this is going to be working hand in hand with the Spike Lego robot kits that we're using right now.
Thank you. All right, Miss Shirley, come on.
Hi, I'm Michelle Shirley from NSC Middle Lab, and I'm using my grant funds to buy a classroom set of the Spike Lego Prime kits so that I can teach a robotics class during wind time. As students with the Spike kits will be doing several different engineering lessons, and they'll be coding to solve problems. It's fun.
Hey.
There are a lot of things that we are involved in, the Chamber is involved in the community. This is one of the ones that I'm most proud of, and there are a lot of things that we do that we're proud of. I just want to give a huge shout out to our A+ Coalition supporters. Our businesses are the ones who fund this. This is not out of our pocket, but out of theirs. So huge thanks to our business community, business and industry who support this STEAM and Education grant. And thank y'all for giving us a few minutes of your time during your board meeting. And we want to take a quick pic if we can.
Sure, yeah. I just wanted to say thank you to the chamber, because I can tell y'all, board, it's not always that a chamber and a school board have such a good relationship. That is, I've always just assumed that was the case, but a lot of districts don't have that. It's probably the chamber's fault in those districts. Just kidding. But no, it really is, to have y'all support, it's special. So we appreciate y'all.
Thank you. That takes work. You know, we talk a lot, all of us, and we have for a lot of years, and we've worked on that relationship with y'all, and we appreciate y'all working with us.
You want to come up here and we'll hold the check?
They want you in the picture. Linda's trying to get you in the picture.
Oh, I don't know if they need me.
Hey, Dustin.
Mr.
Billy's
Benefiel.
coming around. So, wait, just a
May I
second.
say something? We're proud of all of our educators, but in case you don't know, this is Miss Shirley, our state finalist winner,
Our teacher.
so that you will see a face to associate with the name. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Page, if you'll remember when we did the Student of the Year competition, one of the things we ask the children, if you could change one thing about your class, what would it be? And they always want more science experiments. So we truly appreciate that investment.
So that was awesome. The next group I am so excited about. They're on the front row here. We have, you see this in a lot of districts. You see it at the state level. The whole idea, it's a lot easier to grow your own people. It's a lot more cost-effective to grow your own people. They understand Natchitoches. They understand their schools. And, you know, tomorrow someone could leave the system. Tomorrow they could go to another job. You know, you don't know what tomorrow holds, but we as a system have to be ready for things that you can't expect. And so we are trying to grow our leaders, and it's called Natchitoches Leads. What was most exciting is because we have some inside help. We were able, for their first meeting, to have the state superintendent. He cleared his schedule, and he came down here and spoke to them for a solid probably 2 hours about what leadership means. And, I mean, that means so much in a myriad of ways. It means that they're special. It also means that the state superintendent thinks enough of Natchitoches to take his time to come here. This group, I'm going to talk about them really quickly, each one of them, and just they can come up briefly, maybe in 30 seconds, tell you, if you want to, what this means to you. I know I'm putting you all on the spot, but hey, that's leadership. But it just was a really special day. They're going to be going through 2 years of monthly modules. They're going to have based on what they want to pursue. Some of them want to be principals. Some of them want to be child welfare and attendance officers. Some of them want to be superintendents. They will be shadowing different members of district staff and everything, and school staff, to find what they want to do and find their passion, and then be shadowing them and using them as a mentor. So first up, we have Mr. Davin White, and when I call your name, if you just stand, and then if you want to, you can go to the podium and share briefly. If you don't want, that was a test. You know, we're like Mr. Miyagi over here. But no, this is Mr. Davin White. He is one of the unsung heroes of Natchitoches Central. Natchitoches Central this year has done an amazing job with their discipline, and I would say that's in large part due to Davin White, because he has a huge heart for Natchitoches. He knows where these kids are after school. He knows what trials and tribulations they have, and the man probably cares more than anybody in this room about Natchitoches. And that's why he's a great disciplinarian, because he knows when to have a soft touch, he knows when to be a little harder, and he also doesn't look at it as punitive. He's trying to change kids and change their lives. So we're excited to have him. I think he's thinking about child welfare and attendance, something like that, because he's such a good disciplinarian, and also maybe principalship. Is that correct, Mr. White? So good deal. So Davin White. Miss Andrea Penrod, by way of Provençal and then by way of Marthaville. She is an instructional specialist, soon to be master teacher at Marthaville. I can tell you that Marthaville, under her academic direction, has become a comeback campus. We also are projecting significant growth, and I think she's a humongous part of that. But we are working with her because she may want to be a district level coordinator. She may want to be a principal. We think she'd be amazing. All those different things, and we have seen her just grow as a leader just in the past 2 years as an IS. and I think she's going to grow even more. So, Miss Andrea Penron. Robert Carline. Stand up. No, so Mr. Carline had a very long career in this parish. I think started at NJH, then went to Magnet and did amazing things at Magnet. And we came to him a while back and kind of put something out to him about going to NJH. And I think the Lord at the same time was maybe talking to him. And
Best decision I ever made in my life.
and he is making significant changes in kids' lives at a school that need people like Robert Carnline to be there and help them. He's coaching teachers. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He's doing all sorts of stuff over there, but he has a passion for this district. He has a passion for the work. He has a passion for kids, and I think he could do anything he wants in a district and in our district, and I'm excited because he's also one who will push back on you, which you always need. And it's good pushback. It's good pushback. So we really are excited about Mr. Robert Carnline. Then we have Mr. Chase Stepp. I'm surprised. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm surprised he didn't immediately walk up and give everyone a fist bump. He is the most positive human being I've ever met. He brings culture to a campus because he works with kids. He can get on their level. He also likes to throw people up in the air. The moment he walks on a campus, no matter what campus it is, he brings a change to that campus because of his positivity. You know, negativity is contagious, but so is that positive attitude. And I cannot think of someone in my career that has a bigger impact on positivity on a campus than Chase Stepp. He's doing an amazing job on discipline at NJH. Their numbers are a fraction of what they were a year before, and that's because in large part due to his and his team's hard work. And he wants to be a principal. He wants to be probably a superintendent. He probably wants to be state superintendent. He wants to be all the things. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Chase Stepp. Mr. Antavius Robertson, probably the youngest in our group, but he said, we asked him, what do you want to be? He said, I want to be a superintendent. And there is no doubt in my mind he will be. He's also the best dressed individual. Sorry, Mr. White. He's the best dressed individual in the entire parish. I recently purchased a pair of Nike Dunks, and he was the first person I told because I thought that would give me some credibility with the younger crowd. I don't think it did. But he is an essential part of that team over at LP Vaughn. We love having male role models at a pre-K to 2, and his insight, especially at such a young age, I think in the 6th year of education, but his insight and knowledge on an academic far surpassed anything I was at that age or experience level. And so the sky is the limit for this guy. You will 1,000% see him in a huge role one day, and probably one day soon. So, Mr. Antavius. And then Miss Latanzia Beavers. We stole her from another parish. We won't say who. But we are so excited to have her and her brother in our parish. She has a very difficult job. She's an instructional specialist at a high-performing school. So how do you go tell really good teachers to improve their craft? And she does it with grace, humility, subtlety, I would say. And she coaches some of our best teachers in the parish. And again, it's very difficult because there is that pushback, but she navigates that wonderfully. She has all sorts of aspirations, but I think they're all very much attainable because she does things in such a gentile, respectful, charismatic way, but it's subtle. You don't know she's charming you until you're charmed. So she's excellent at her job. We love her, and that's Miss Latanzia Beavers. So as we said, this was a real competitive process. We had 36 individuals apply. These were the 7. Miss Jamie Gilmore is not able to join us today because of a prior engagement. But, and Brian Williams. They both were unable to join us. But we're super excited about them. We feel like they're going to be some of our next leaders. And like I said 100 times, the sky's the limit for these guys and gals. So very excited about that. Thank you so much for being here. And as we transition to the next thing, y'all can, transition out if y'all want to. Or there you go. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I have one short thing before I go to my last item. I would be remiss if I did not talk about our focus group meetings over the past few weeks. When I saw the schedule that Billy had, when I created the schedule that Billy asked me to, I was like, oh, will it be worth it? It was 1,000% worth it. We had some amazing conversations. I think some of the best feedback we've gotten in any type of context. I think we've even talked about maybe doing a spring semester where we would go out with some different groups and do that. But we created a safe space where parents could talk to us about their concerns, about their positives. And overall, what I got from it was there was a lot of things that they wanted to bring to our attention, but there was a lot of stuff they wanted to talk about how excited they were about where the district is going. And so that was really reassuring to hear that from them. But on the things that they wanted to see addressed, we took meticulous notes. We're going to be doing breakouts with the principals. I'll be going to their schools and sharing lessons from that and seeing how we can take some of that information given to us and constantly improve our district and show that we are listening to people who typically don't think that school boards listen to them. You know, they think we just do everything in a vacuum without listening, but I can tell you with this board and with this staff, that is not the case. So really excited about where those meetings will kind of take us to a whole nother level. Talking about going to a whole nother level, the next person I have coming up is Miss Kathy Noel. As I informed y'all go ahead, yeah.
Before we move on from those topics, the town hall meeting follow-ups, we had those meetings in June, and it was a very, very long schedule. We had board members that attended every one, and it's a tough situation when you stand in front of a whole community and you say, how can we make this thing, whatever it is we want, you want, how can we make it better? And so we took those comments and then we brought small groups in from those communities and asked them, okay, this is what was said, what does that mean? And is there anything else that you need to talk about or you would like us to see? The biggest thing that we heard from every group was not negative. It was all positive on where the system is today versus where it was several years back. Also, their spotlight on teachers and principals and just everyone on the campus and the students and how they're, we're improving and what's going on. That's an amazing thing when you see most people concentrating on the negative. And so to the superintendent's point, I think these were necessary. I don't think the school system, the Niagara Parish School Board, I know has never gone to the public and said, what do you think? And so I know a lot of school administrators are wondering, are they out to get me, or are they looking for trouble, or what is it? At the end of the day, we start every meeting and close it with the same thing. These meetings are about how the school system can better support the community. And that's exactly what we want to do. Ms. Lyles and I had a long conversation many years ago, and she said, it would be great if we had one-on-one and a transfer of information and people in the board will actually listen. And so we have that board. We have those people. We have that superintendent. We have those people on staff. And it's just wonderful that we have the community that wants to come forward and talk about it. So,
Mr. Benefield, can I piggyback on what you said by saying that on, I guess it was Halloween, we had a big gathering in Ashland, about 200 folks in Ashland. Told Chad about it, also spoke to Major Wiggins. I would love to see us go out to that center in Ashland, bring our JROTC, all of the great things that we're doing out at Lakeview and Goldana and the places that we're doing these things, and let those people, because we had people from Saline, that's in our district, had people from Castor, that's in our district, that if they knew all the things that we were actually doing and what they could actually be a part of, I believe, and I was talking to Major today, and he was talking about the drones that they're doing. Listen, some of those kids would love to come and do the drones. Our football team, our basketball team, all of the things that going on, the academics that's going on, that's the most important, you know, because if you talk about Castor, I think ranks number 3 in our state on some of the things that they're doing. So they don't want to come to something that's doing less, but I think we're doing much better. But we just have to taunt what we're doing. So I hope in the very near future we can put this together, go to that Ashland area, have a beautiful park out there that we had a wonderful time, and present out there.
Thank you. Okay, sorry.
No worries. So just to transition, you are all well aware at this point of the grant we received from the federal government. I have made no bones about the fact that were we to not have had Ms. Noel with us, we would not have received that grant, and she may be more bashful about that, but I won't be. NIT reached out to her, knew the work we were doing in Natchitoches, but they wanted to work with her, and so we were blessed in that regard. But we promised you a more in-depth discussion of what actually is the Strong grant, and so she is here today to share that with you.
Good evening. It's good to see all of you all again, and I'm very happy you're out in the community. Our community is you're having community visits, because you know I grew up in one of those small communities, and so. To have those connections are vital. I still have family out in those communities, and they are seeing you all and knowing that you care. So that's just a great step for you all. So I am here to talk to you about, I call it the grant. And as you know, I don't know that you knew we gave it a name, but we named it. We named it the Strong Grant. And STRONG stands for Systems for Training and Retaining Our Natchitoches Educators for Growth. And we felt that was appropriate because what we know about teaching is that teachers appreciate, just like your community does, they appreciate knowing they are supported. And so that's the basis of where we're headed with our grant. I'd like to go ahead and share, just reminding you of that timeline that was really fast, and we did it. We started in May simply with a phone call, and that phone call was to me from, I think we've already shared this with you, from the Chief Executive Officer of NIET, and basically saying, hey, we know there's good work going on in Natchitoches. We know you're connected there. We'd like for you to direct this, and we're willing to put support into it and be a partner in it. And that doesn't happen very often. As a matter of fact, we were the only district in Louisiana that they made a call to over that.
It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, so that's, if you know, and to know that the work you're doing and the work you're supporting make that kind of difference at a national level is going to be something we can put almost a stamp on any day we would like. So from that point of that phone call, we had approximately 4 weeks to write this grant, finish this grant, put every detail into it. It ended up being over 100 pages. There were many moments of making sure that we weren't missing something inside of this grant. We actually submitted on, I believe, June 28th, if I'm correct. We were down to the very last moment in pushing the button, and Dr. Eloy was the one to push the button, so we were excited to see that move on. We actually had to wait. I can remember Dr. Eloy came by and he said, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? I said, no, sir, you're not probably going to hear anything till the end of September. Well, as you know him as well as I do, middle of September, he was saying, did you hear anything? Did you hear anything? But we did not hear back until the last week of September. And when we found out, we had 10 days to get it started. And so we turned it around and we started on October 1. They actually put us on the clock October 1. So with that said, once we found out what had happened, we actually got to see what money was available to us, which is what you're looking at right now. They made it very clear to us, though, that they only grant this to us 1 year at a time, which we understand. They're not going to give you money to waste it. And so they have said to us, and we understand what this means, that we will have to show substantial progress at the end of every year to get our new grant for the next year. They call it grant award notifications. We have no doubt we will have substantial progress on this. So I want you to know that we are backing what we said in this grant to make sure it happens. We also know that if we show substantial progress at the end of this particular school year, they said they would go ahead and allocate another $900,000 to us on top of this. So I guess that's an incentive to do really, really well. I think they know what they're doing when they say that. But I want you to know where we stand right now with the total, which is $14,262,991, and that's over a period of 3 years. We also understand that after 3 years, again, if we have shown substantial progress, they are looking to extend us 2 more years. So the momentum and I think the direction that we're listening the federal government speak about is right where I feel like we are and where we want to be with this grant. So we did have to address a few needs. We actually had to speak openly about what we're trying to get better at. And because this is a teacher and school leader incentive fund grant, we had to speak directly to our teaching force and to our school leadership force. So just very quickly noting some of the needs that we're trying to address. One of them, which was pretty astounding to me once I started writing this grant, is that Natchitoches has a percent of economically disadvantaged students at 90%. That is higher than the region we're in, and that is higher than the state average. And I can tell you, I've seen several districts, been in several districts, heard from several districts, and I can tell you everyone that's surrounding you here is nowhere close to that percentage. Most districts average in the high 60s in Louisiana, so I'm just giving you that number to compare to. 11 of our total schools are called high-need schools. They have been classified or designated as high-need schools. These 11 schools have an economic disadvantage percentage of over 90%. That's how that classification comes about. Also, we're still running below the state average with certain grade level proficiency rates. Even though we've grown, we have some areas that are still behind the state average. We also have a lack of a diverse teaching force. 63% of our students are people of color, with only 29% of the teachers being people of color. This is one of the largest gaps in the state of Louisiana. It's actually not only within our region, but the entire state. It's one of the larger gaps. And so that's a real big purpose of this particular grant, is to search for highly effective teachers who are of color, to come in and really encourage them to support us so that we can build this diverse teaching force. We also have a high teacher turnover, particularly in the high-need schools where a lot of novice teachers are. As a matter of fact, what I'm about to share with you is right directly in our high-need school. Of those novice teachers, 20% are inexperienced. They've never taught. They are pretty much walking in here for the first time to teach. And then 40% of those teachers are out of field. So again, very high percentages when compared to other districts, when compared to the state. And then a big one too for us is that we're competing with neighboring districts that offer some of the highest teacher salaries in the state of Louisiana. And so it's up to us to try to put out a package of incentive structures, and I'm not talking about just money, but also talking about the support and the coaching and the care you get in Natchitoches Parish. Because I, again, have been in those districts, have come from some of those districts, and I can tell you they're not as supportive as Natchitoches is right now. So those are some of the needs, and those actually are needs that we have to report substantial progress on. So that's a key word for us, is substantial progress as we move forward. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to actually, and we had to write this in too, saying we're going to ensure that we provide equitable educational opportunities by making sure that our students have access to qualified and effective teachers. Now notice there are two words there. There's qualified and there's effective. So we are they have certain goals that we have to report on. We have to report on them quarterly. And then again, that's part of that substantial progress package. We have to create a sustainable model that even after this grant is finished, we have a model that attracts teachers, develops them, and retains them to where we can say that we have less turnover and have a much more well-qualified, experienced, effective, and diverse pool of educators who are equipped to meet all these diverse needs of our learners that I've already mentioned. And also, again, trying to fill that gap of where we already know we have a lopsided, non-diverse group of teachers supporting our diverse group of students. We also we had to be very careful in making sure that we met every part of this, that we have to be able to support an effective teaching and learning professional development system in our district that is improving instructional practices on an ongoing basis, and the student achievement grows at the same time. So one can't go without the other here. So we'll have to be reporting on that as well. As you already know, because you were visiting with the superintendent in May over this is a partnership with the Milken Family Foundation, who actually manage the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching, NIET. So I'm giving you some of those terms you're going to hear. So you're going to hear NIET. You're going to hear people speaking of NIET in our schools. You probably already hear that term because we are already partnering with them in different avenues. But this grant also supports the implementation of TAP, the System for Teacher and Student Advancement. NIET manages this system, and they will be very much involved with our program implementation. They called us for a reason. They knew we could do this work. They were not going to pick someone that wasn't willing to do the work, and that's why they're supporting us. So that means a couple of things. That means Natchitoches will become a TAP district. And you're probably wondering, well, why is that a designation? Well, a TAP district actually has to go through an application process with NIET, and they have to say you're a TAP district. And then you're put under a program review every year that you're working their program with, and this is the word you hear all the time, with fidelity. So there is a process here. So we will become a TAP district starting 2024-2025 school year. They're going to give us 1 year to gear up and get ready for this. Each school will also become a TAP school. And again, they have their own model of implementation that has to go under review each year from NIET. I then wanted to share, and this is kind of small, so I'll make sure I read this out loud to you. I wanted to really let you understand what the strategies might look like, and again, what some of those words that you're going to hear in our schools mean. So we, as one strategy, have to implement evaluation processes of teachers that use valid and reliable rubrics for teachers and school leaders. That is what NIET is partnering with us on. That's the NIET Teaching and Learning Standards rubric. We actually are already using that. And by the way, the state of Louisiana adopted this rubric to replace the one they currently have been using. And they're going to be actually in full implementation with a learning year on that this upcoming year. I'm so proud of Natchitoches. That's not going to be a problem for us. We're going to already be there and doing that. We'll have T-shirts that says, that we'll be announcing ourselves on that one. But I just needed you to recognize that you're going to probably hear those words, but also that is something we're already doing. Another strategy that NIET puts into motion is they actually create a teacher career ladder. And so we also have to implement this career ladder for teachers. And you're wondering, well, why wouldn't we already have a career ladder for teachers? They move from maybe being a teacher to an assistant principal to a principal. That's not the career ladder we're speaking of. They actually support a career ladder with teachers who want to advance in a career, but still be within a classroom setting and not be pulled from classrooms. So it starts, I'll go ahead and top down. The very top position is called the TAP Executive Master Teacher. This is a very skilled individual. NIET has qualifications for this. We get to hire that particular person. That person will lead the next classification is called a TAP Master Teacher. We currently have instructional specialists. You saw 2 of them tonight. They will become TAP Master Teachers in our future. We do have to add some. NIET says you have to have a certain number of master teachers to whatever your count of teachers in the district is. That ratio is about 15 teachers or so to every master teacher. The next title is TAP Mentor Teacher. This is actually a classroom teacher, so this is really not a change in position, but they do get a stipend, and we do call them mentor teachers because their role is to support teachers in the building and to really support the master teacher along. So it builds that collaboration with the whole school. I wanted to share out the strong grant pays for the money we're receiving, pays for the salaries of the executive master teacher and also for all of our master teachers. It will also pay the stipend for the TAP mentor teacher. So that additional amount that those classroom teachers will get if they choose to be mentor teachers, that grant pays for that as well. I also wanted to say to you that a third piece, which we're already doing, is to establish collaborative and relevant professional learning for teachers and school leaders. Remember, that's something that that's part of this model. That's actually going on right now. They're called job-embedded cluster meetings. Those happen weekly, and they are led by a master teacher and supported by a mentor teacher. So again, we're kind of ahead of this system with already having that in place. We will also implement a new performance-based compensation system for teachers. And again, this is part of that incentive for being in Natchitoches, for drawing teachers and maintaining them here in our district. This particular performance-based compensation system is actually an NIET model. It is what they have written in or helped write into our grant, and they are supporting us with this. Here is what is very important, though. This performance-based compensation has to have a student growth component in it. So the more you grow students, guess what? The more money you get. So that's an exciting idea. And so just kind of pointing out that we will have to implement this particular model. We actually start that this year. This is one of the things we start in 2023, 2024, is this performance-based compensation. The grant pays for this. We have it already budgeted. We're solid for 3 years in getting this put into play. And then also we have to really support our schools in developing a system for them to where they can maintain some of their understanding of a human capital. And so we actually already have this in place. It's called the EE-Pass system. That sounds fancy, but it's really just a data warehouse. And inside this data warehouse, school leadership teams have the ability to see reports on how their teachers are growing, which ones are stronger in certain areas, which one needs support in certain areas. It also helps them target where to plan their next moves as a leadership team inside their buildings. At end of year, they get to see which teachers are excelling with student growth. And again, that's part of that system of retaining highly effective, qualified teachers for where we do not have a high turnover. So some next steps real quickly. I know I've taken a little more time than I should have. We have to establish an advisory board that will be coming up. We do have some job descriptions drafted for your review. We do have to establish job descriptions that I've already mentioned for your approval. Those in particular that have to be reviewed are the TAP Executive Master Teacher and the TAP Master Teacher. We will be moving forward with district and school level trainings on that new performance-based compensation model. We don't want you to guess how you're getting your money. We want you to understand it. And so that will take us some time to make sure we're training appropriately all teachers and all school leaders on this. We are moving to submit all requested materials as needed by the Federal Department of Education. That includes budgets, adjustments, budget revisions if needed, project plans, a logic model, program implementation reports. They have a lot they want from us. So we have to be on top of this because we're after that substantial progress stamp. We will begin a marketing campaign in January and February, advertising, recruiting for the executive master teacher position and these new TAP master teacher positions, and then also going within our own teacher force and advertising the mentor teacher role. We are going to be training everyone in the spring and summer of 2024, and then we'll have our new positions in place to start the school year 24-25. I'm looking forward to continuing this path that we've started. I can tell you we're on a great path, but I can tell you what I feel like we have the chance to be, and I've put it up here. I look forward to continuing the path forward to being the best school district in the state of Louisiana. And I certainly thank you all for the opportunity. I guess if there are any questions, I'm open for that.
I just want to say thank you for that explanation of how the process is going to work. That was excellent. Being a TAP district is an excellent opportunity for this district. The teachers have been implementing a lot of this work over the course of the last year. So a lot of the stuff that some of you may hear that they've had to do all of this extra work, this is the work that they've already been doing. But now they'll be getting compensation.
That's correct.
So it's an excellent thing.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. What will your advisory board look like?
That's a good question. We know we have to have one. I'm getting a description right now from the federal government. I would hope that we get to pull in parent, we're not just within our own means here, but we want community people. We want, various groups of individuals. But I don't know yet.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And that concludes my superintendent report for this month.
Okay. Board members, if you gaze back at your agenda, we have old business. We discussed the purchase of a vehicle last month and opportunity to look at it again this month, so I don't see any discussion on that. New business. I do want to talk about something that when we had these town hall meetings, one of our newer board members, Mr. Fredo, and I put him on the spot, mentioned, and I talk about this board all the time and how proud I am to serve on this board with these people. Mr. Fredo brought up a very interesting conversation the other night and how much he appreciates this board now as a result of looking at other boards' videos. Could you care to
Without naming anything.
Without naming it.
without naming those other boards, could you
I'm pretty active on social media, so you know, I tune in to other live feeds and things like that, and I'm not going to say exactly what all I said.
Hey,
But,
Chad, speaking to your mic.
Can you hear me? Hold on. There we go. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm pretty active on social media, so I see some other live feeds of some other meetings, and I'll say that this board, I appreciate the structure that we have, the organization, the professionalism, because you don't always see that, and it kind of gets hectic and it gets out of order, and it makes things a lot easier. And I know that, you know, sometimes in here it gets, you know, this way or that way, which is a good thing. That means we all have passion about what we're doing. So I do appreciate the board and the structure that we keep.
Mr. Benefield, just to kind of piggyback on that, I do think it's important, obviously, the growth of the district, Ms. Noel's connection with the district, but the other piece of that is y'all have been supportive of everything we've done so far. You took a leap of faith when we did instructional specialists. You've taken several leaps of faith, and you've trusted myself, you've trusted the staff, and I think you definitely, there's no think about it, you laid the foundation that allowed Ben and Kathy and myself to do some of the things that allowed NIET to look at us. So I do want to say that very much y'all's work in the past few years, I think, made the grant possible as well. So kudos to y'all.
Thank you, Superintendent. We'll be looking at some more leaps here later on in the agenda.
I think that it's great that we have such a grant available to this district to address
And
a lot of the items.
I'm so glad you said that, because I do have an item that I meant to put on the superintendent report. But Ms. McGaskey, something you've been passionate about before, or all the time, is having more volunteer staff. And I had told you we had wanted to apply for the foster grandparent program, but they were not accepting applications at the time. We received word today that we can apply through AmeriCorps for that, and so we are actively going to pursue that over the next few months. So hopefully we'll have some good news for you
Wonderful.
soon.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Okay. Our informational reports, I think we lead off with Ms. Rashow.
And Mr. Benefield, you saw that some of these reports are labeled first Thursday and second Thursday. Also, Mr. Wascom's budget report and sales tax report were not available today. They'll be available for next Thursday.
Thank you. And Mr. Fredo, thank you for those comments.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. The federal program's November board meeting report is pretty short this month. I wanted to focus on closing out officially ESSER II formula. I spoke to that on last week. I met with the business department, and we reconciled our records once again, and we are 100% with the spending of the $11,577,233. And I have it broken down by the percentage in which those expenditures took place, from salaries down all the way down to indirect costs. And so, do you have any questions about that piece?
Nothing on the table.
Nothing, 100%.
And
And we were very worried.
I have to say that that was a monumental task, and I know Ms. Rachel is acting like we just spent all the money. Kudos to her, because she also did that during a transition. Our first federal programs director, who started with ESSER II, retired in the midst of that, and Ms. Rachel picked it up. And so, thank you so much for all your hard work.
I
See her
enjoy
up here on
spending money.
Saturdays and Sundays all the times.
Thank you. Yes, we are. With ESSER II incentive, we did leave a little bit on the table. In full transparency, last month I reported that we were anticipating spending 100%.
However, that did not come to fruition. I believe we left about 13,000. That was 146,000. The last minute, like 30 days before the grant ended, they dumped $100,000 into ESSER 2 incentive. And so we just kind of struggled to get the allowable items.
We'll just take that out of your sales tax checks this year.
That's
Just kidding, Miss Rochelle. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Whatever I can do to support the district.
Are there some ESSER funds that are still allowed to be spent up until September of next year?
That's ESSER 3.
That's
ESSER
ESSER 3, and we're on, yes, that's some fun times that are coming very soon for us to just look at ensuring that we will expend 100% of those as well. So I'm looking forward to all of that work. Title I school improvement plans, I've been really busy on working with our principals to ensure that we're meeting the Every Student Succeeds Act by submitting our school improvement plans. I just attended a training at LASAFAT, which is the Louisiana Association for Federal School Programs, and it was absolutely amazing to be able to get a true understanding of where we are and if we are on track to, of course, being in compliance. And if anybody knows me, I always want to be 100% on everything. And so with that being said, I had an opportunity to sit with someone that is very skilled in the area of Title I compliance and auditing and learn from her. And now I have her on speed dial and sending her all the things to review for Natchitoches Parish. And she's been great about giving feedback with that. But we are there, and she said she's watching, everyone's watching Natchitoches. If you do not know, everyone's watching Natchitoches, and it feels great to be part of this district as we move to these great heights after 26 years. It's been a long time coming for me, and I know for most of you who've been here even longer. And so we will be publishing those school improvement plans to the school website because that was one of the things we were lacking. And so I want to make sure that we're in compliance there. And that's all I have for the federal programs November board meeting report.
Any questions?
Questions?
Ms. Rashad?
Okay, well, thank you very much.
For all that
No worries
information.
on anything legal because compliance is Miss Rochelle's middle name.
It truly is. I'm not sure if I'm next up with the early childhood stuff. Do I wait on that?
Finding those resources to keep us at the leading edge. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
No, we still have some more information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Shirley.
Mr. Shirley, I hope you're leading off with some news for Pastor Harris.
Your dish machine is complete at Lakeview Culinary Arts.
Praise the Lord. Amen. Amen. Thank you
We
so
can
very
wash
much.
dishes.
You're well, yeah, 2 years, but I got it done. Got it done.
There's a retired teacher that will be very happy to get this phone call after.
But in your current
Asked
teacher,
me if-
And she
and
was
your,
a new
and your
teacher.
current teacher is not real happy that it's up and going. Just let you know. Speaking of Lakeview, done a walkthrough today of the locker room. The construction is going on. They're doing the cleanup. They're moving everything out. We'll go tomorrow at the walkthrough. I'm going to make a punch list of what's going on. The lockers, the new lockers that are going in, they're being stained as we speak. So maybe mid next week, they will go in. The project will be done except for the cleanup and just the minor punch list items.
When is the walkthrough again?
Scheduled for tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
What time? Because I was informed of it today from the contractor. It was a walkthrough tomorrow
That's the contractor for the
for the locker room.
locker room. And that will be all done?
Yes, at the end of next week, we're hoping the end of next week. If the lockers, they're being stained, they were built, they're being stained this week, and hopefully mid next week he'll get to install them.
So we can't do no walkthrough tomorrow?
Yeah, everything other than that, well, washer and dryer. We got the washer and dryer. The electrician's got to hook us up a conventional plug for the dryer. Then for pretty much, they started cleaning on it today. So all the stuff will be cleaned up. He actually gave Mr. Williams the go-ahead to use those center locker rooms, the bathroom stalls, the whole 9 yards. That was being cleaned today as I left there at 11 o'clock today.
I know
So,
we've been trying to plan a get together with all of the school board to.
right. And I don't know who the walkthrough was with, but I just got told that they were doing a walkthrough tomorrow. So I was assuming it was you guys, but
Maybe just whenever we find out the time, we can at least text
Please
Mr.
let
Fredo
us
and
know.
Mr. Pastor Harris.
I will actually ask him when I leave here and I'll send a text. But yeah, I was kind of blown away because he told me today, he's like, oh, you're coming out here a day early. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, the walkthrough's not scheduled till tomorrow. I was like, oh, no, I'm walking today. So, but yes, we are getting through that. The bus barn project is 95% complete. I got it complete on here, but I have my punch list. We will address that tomorrow. Me and the contractor will address that. Natchitoches Central, I don't know if y'all heard, we had a little incident with Northwestern burning some brush. It got over onto Natchitoches Central. We had to call the fire department to come put it out. So I have now had all of the fence rows cleaned. All the trees that was around is no longer. So we can see from fence row to fence row. So we're good to go. That will not happen again.
Did we burn it out or what?
No, well, part of it we did. We actually did.
All right.
Yeah. So, but the rest of it was removed.
You had a controlled burn, Mr. Shirley?
Yeah, we had a controlled burn that wasn't really
At the
controlled.
school?
Yes, sir. It was fun. If it wouldn't have been for one of the baseball boys that actually went over to return some stuff after baseball practice, that come running up to my window, knocking on my window, we'd had more than a controlled burn. We may have lost the actual batting cages because it was getting there quick. We had about 8-foot flames, so it was nice. Wow. It was good. It was fun. Exhilarating.
Mr. Shirley?
Yes.
Question about Natchitoches Central. There was at least one classroom with air conditioning problems, and there were some parts that were going to be ordered. English department?
As far as I'm understanding, those units have been replaced. We had a new one come up in the business department, but I'm not real sure. I'll find out and ask, and then I'll have you an update Thursday.
I
But
know one of the teachers had to move out to a different classroom because of no AC.
if she shouldn't have had to move out for no AC, because we actually purchased our own portable ACs.
Right, right.
Yeah,
she-
just like those back there. And we actually have 4 on site at Natchitoches Central. So if she's moved out, that's news to me. 'Cause,
As of, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, she was still displaced.
okay, I will find out, but I was under the assumption when we put those in, she was moved back to where she was supposed to go. But I still don't think I have anything open for the English department. I've got something for, I think, the business department, but I'm gonna check.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Previously, there was some safety issues with the doors at Natchitoches Junior High.
Yes, ma'am.
Resolved.
About 85%. We're still waiting on 2 doors to come in. The contractor said he should be back on site Monday to finish those up. Now, most of the doors that we have put up on the outside, the new doors, they do not have the hardware on the outside yet because that hasn't been shipped. So as soon as we get those, we'll have the hardware. They can exit those doors and they can still come in through the front door with a key, but you cannot, like the kitchen door back there that leads to pod G, that hardware has not been put on the outside. So they're having to, in between classes, have somebody stand at the door to let them in because they can't get in from outside. But they can get out from the inside. So we're still waiting on that, but
There was a safety hazard involved.
no, as far as them getting in, no.
Okay.
The safety hazard would be if they couldn't get out.
Yes.
Then that would be a big boo-boo. But no, they can get out. They just have to have a teacher let them in.
Okay.
Mr. Shirley, I do want to, we met with one of our parents at one of our focus groups, was a public health inspector, and she had brought the issue to us that several of the reports she was saying they hadn't made significant progress on. So we were able, through that meeting, she didn't know who Mr. Shirley was, and she had never given those reports to him. She had given them to the principals. So we were able to get those reports to him. He's now reaching out to her, and we are making significant, there was no critical items, but.
It's just, it's a lot of repetitive things.
Repetitive, yeah.
And on our kitchen side, they had been reporting their issues that were reported in the cafeterias. So we had been working on those, like floor tile that was busted up in front of the, like the freezers and missing ceiling tile and different things like that. We was aware of those and we've been replacing those. It was the inside the school, like in the main schools. We wasn't getting any work orders on those and I wasn't receiving her reports. So I had no clue about some of these things. But I've talked to her several times and we're on it.
Another benefit from having those focus group meetings is we can find that issue and.
Yeah, well, and see, and now, like I told her, we would be glad to send somebody with her when she does her reports, and we can meet her at those schools, kind of like what we do with the fire marshal. That way, we can take our own notes, and we are aware of the position. I mean, of her position on what we got going on. I've never been through anything that I haven't been a part of with a health inspector or the fire marshal when I was at the hospital. I was there every single time.
She's in her office until 9:05 every morning.
Yep, I've got her phone number. Yeah,
I see her.
on one-on-one basis. Anybody else have any other questions?
Inspecting.
Well, look, she's been wonderful. I mean, she really has. Some of those issues, she could have pinched us on, and she's made sure they're taken care of, especially on the kitchen side.
She's working with us.
Yeah, but she's very easy to work with.
And all of them, she said, were non-critical, but it's just a cumulative effect of over and over. And so I'm glad we're getting those reports now. That's great.
Right. Any other questions?
The leaks at Fairview from the existing stuff?
Oh, man, it's been, look, we've had 2 in the last, now you said this, watch what happens tomorrow. We've had 2 in the last 2 months that have been minor leaks and 1 pretty decent leak. I got the new test results today. The silica, the hardness, everything is perfect. It's right where we need to be. So the things that we're repairing now should stay that way. Yes, they should stay that way. Any other questions? All right, thank y'all.
No, this may be for Lee as well, I guess. Did we ever get in touch with the Diocese of Caddo?
Shreveport.
All right, I'll send you the links.
Well, and Mr. Shirley, since he spoke up, that made me remember too, the gym floor in the old gym at Marthaville is buckled bad.
We have found the leak. We have to now figure out how to repair the leak. The actual, on that end of the gym, the dirt is this high on the wall, and that's how it's coming through. The subfloor is below ground level, so we've got to figure out some kind of French drain or drainage. I actually meet the guy Tuesday. I meet the guy Tuesday out there to look to see what kind of drain we can put in. Just same way as the bleachers. We figured out where the water was getting in for the bleachers. We've rerouted that. So we shouldn't have the bleachers anymore. But that ground, we got to figure that out.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Page.
Billy didn't give y'all a chance to say nothing else there, did he?
Thank you, Ms. Noel, for sharing your expertise and committing to NPSB almost an A, and for so eloquently presenting the information that you did. I attended Grambling State University the week we're out, and I'm just sliding in from Louisiana Christian. But she just presented to you what we need, what we have, and what we need to do. Because I can trick them into coming back, but we can't convince them to stay if they don't have what they need. I mean, teaching is not for the faint of heart. And so, I don't know. I know everybody's excited, but I don't think anybody's more excited than I am, because we put in the work to get them here and cannot keep them. And that's just not Natchitoches Parish, but we feel good about this. The report. Mm-hmm.
So is that guy on I, is he qualified?
The what? I tell you
Can't
what,
talk about personnel.
After 47 years, he might be.
I can tell you, he puts in the hours that we put in and more. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Okay, Ms. Washington.
Good afternoon, everybody. For the month of November, what we did over fall break, we brought our trainers in, and then we all went in a training program just to go over with LDOT to make sure that we're all under compliance and any updates that they're doing, that we are being regulated, and that we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing the way we're supposed to be doing it. So we did that for the whole fall break, and we did, me coming into transportation, I learned a lot of things that I wasn't aware of. So we've been coming together with corporates coming down and just coming up with new ideas and new plans so we can make sure that everybody is trained, and because safety is our biggest thing. So we want everybody to be safe and do things the way we're supposed to be doing them. We also, we hired 2 new drivers, and then, well, now it's a more update. Now we have 4 more people in the pipeline. The 2 that we have on there, they've gotten their permits, so they're starting to actually behind the wheel training. Then we got 2 working on their permits, so that'll be a total of 6 more drivers, which would put us fully staffed plus subs. So that's going to help us out a lot, even with absenteeism and everything else. So I'm really, really excited about that. So that, for me, that's just like kudos on my end. We did our bus evacuations last week, and we're even going even more training on that because, like I was telling people in our safety meeting, that a lot of times things become routine to where you do it and not even realizing what you're doing, and you're just really numb to it and just going through the motion. But after we asked a lot of questions and different things, a lot of people really didn't know the full concept of it. They were doing it out of routine, but it was like, okay, if this reality, if it really did happen, what would you do then? What would you do? So we've set up with our safety team, just to go over some more training on that part, even with our sped buses or whatever, just to make sure that they know how to properly lock down a wheelchair. Everybody's went through the training, but we just want to reiterate it again. Because like I said, things happen at the drop of a dime. And so we just want to make sure on our end we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing and doing it the right way. We have Miss Deborah Party. She's with the Fall Farmers Market. She did it for the springtime. So now she's going out just to bring more people in and just bring them into ECHO. We want ECHO to be a light in the community. And so whatever we can do to get positive feedback and, just to make the community safer and the parents feel more at ease with the busing system. So that's what our goal is, just to make sure everything is, we're doing everything the way we're supposed to do it, how we're supposed to do it, and where everybody feel at ease with us doing it. Any questions?
This may be for Dr. Eloy, but in our focus group, we had some bus aid talk. Has that been?
Yeah, so I actually researched both of those. I've been in contact with one of the parents, and come to find out it was kind of a perfect storm of situations. Without going into too much detail, one of the students was on the bus. A new aide came on.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, that student was out for a medical issue for about 12 days worth of school, but 2 weeks and some days. Right. So the aide that was put on there communicated halfway through there that there's no student, and then was taken off, repositioned, and then the student came back on. Mom didn't inform us in the SPED department that the aide wasn't there, and so SPED believed the aide was on there because they hadn't. So it's just kind of I guess, like I said, perfect storm. It kind of slipped through, but I've already talked to Miss Washington, and we're working to
get everything lined back out. So we're taking care of it.
And those things happen, and we were just so fortunate that the parent was, willing to share it, and it was a positive experience for everyone. So
So they just kind of was an issue with Communication.
And basically, that's what it was with communication. And as soon as it was brought to my attention, I made calls and, just try to get it resolved because I didn't know. And it was actually happening at the beginning of the school, new driver, new monitor, so they're riding, and it's like, we don't have a kid on here, and so I'm like, well, okay, well, we don't need a monitor because it's not a lot, so we put the monitor on another route. But then when the child came back, I didn't, it was just communication all the way around. So I did speak with Ms. Fields in the SPED department and everything, and we just went through the whole list just to make sure that all of the list of students that are requiring special transportation, that they are assigned to the right bus and they are riding and just everything, just so we won't be somebody won't slip through the crack again.
And I do want to mention, I've been working, and I apologize, Ms. Washington, our new operations director at ECHO, what is his name again?
Glenn Kruger. Uh-huh.
Met with him this past week. Ms. Reba has been pushing pretty consistently about a GPS tracking system that parents can locate where their student is. It also gives automatic updates. Hey, your student's going to be a few minutes late. We are currently in the process of pricing those options. Mr. Kozat has been looking into it for me because some of them are amazing, but they're really expensive, and some of them are really cheap, but they don't do what we want it to do. So we're trying to find some nice middle ground. I am optimistic that that solution will be ready for next school year. I'd love for it to be a spring, but I'm not going to throw that out there as of yet because we need to do some more due diligence on it. But I think that would really help our parents.
Yeah.
As a positive note, as a parent, speaking as a parent, my little buddy, my 7-year-old Percy man, got sick on the bus today, but I received a call, my wife received a call, and my mother-in-law received a call, who then texted me saying exactly what the bus driver said. But I don't think I received that because they knew who Percy was. I think that's just how that driver.
And that's a thing that we're trying to implement, just to be a personal relationship and just be, I'd rather give out too much information than not enough, and so, like I said, we're just trying a lot of different things, and put it out there where we can have a good rapport with the community. Thank you.
Amen. All right. Ms. Tankia.
All right. Number 7, Finance, Facilities, Services, and Insurance. Item 7A, discuss and consider approval of the 2024-2025 Louisiana Early Childhood Education Fund local match.
I want to make sure this is sorry, we have screens over there, but I don't have my eyes on today. So this is the local match grant funding for our Louisiana Early Childhood Fund Local Match Award 24-25. Yes, we're requesting that Dr. Eloy be able to sign for us to move forward with the receiving of these funds from the Rapides Foundation.
We can do that.
630,000.
630,000. And just to speak on that, these funds are for the 24-25 school year. So what they did was we submitted our early childhood application request for funds. We used historical data from our October 1 counts. We looked at families who were still on a waiting list for CCAP, which is Child Care Assistant Program. And we took those numbers. We worked with our program partners, our Birth to 3 child care centers, to cross-reference their wait list, and we were able to submit our count for the 24-25 predictive school year. In response to that, we will receive funds from the Louisiana Department of Education to fill approximately 89 seats. And then the Rapides Foundation awarded us enough funding to support 105 seats. The great thing about the funding from the Rapides Foundation is that the state requires 200, that families are 200% below the poverty line. And so and I don't do this work, I have a great team of individuals over there that look at the applications and verify income to award 100% tuition per year for families. With the Rapides Foundation funding, we will be able to support families who are a little above poverty, if that makes sense. For example, we've had families that were made $5 too much. They're productive members of our society, our community in Natchitoches. They could really need the support, some financial support with childcare because it's pretty expensive. These funds will allow us to provide the families who are, like I said, a little bit above that poverty line, or maybe not working exactly 20 hours. They're going to school for 18 hours. They don't receive the state allocation because it has to be 20 hours. This will give us some flexibility to support those families, and we're really excited because we have a very long list. Sir? This is the first time that the Rapides Foundation has supported this work. Last year, we saw almost $1 million decrease in funding for early childhood, and the Rapides Foundation reached out and asked how could they help. And we held meetings with not just our district, several other districts as well, and they talked about needs. And from there, the Rapides Foundation was able to pull together these funds available for us. So that $670,000, $630,000 is, I want to say that's guaranteed for us next year. It is for the 24-25 year. But the second letter is the fundraising match award for $570,000. That's where it gets a little tricky because it's a one-to-one match. And I'm not experienced with the donation piece, but I had the pleasure of working with one of our program partners at Northwestern. Mr. Drake Owens met with me today, and he really laid down some first steps. This is where you need to start, type of things. And so he has definitely made me feel a little more comfortable with pursuing this. So the way these funds trickle down to us, that's this $570,000, we will receive that, the business department will receive that check, and then we will have to match a significant amount, and this is where it gets scary, before the end of January 2024. And so I met with, once again, like I said earlier, I met with Mr. Owens, and we have some plans. He's given me some ideas for us to not raise $570,000 in 2 months, because that's that's a high, that's intense. But we, with the work that I've been doing with the Rapides Foundation, we have a goal, and I really feel as if we'll get there. Then we'll be able to use that money. Next year, we'll have a opportunity for a full year. It was a quick turnaround with this piece. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Yes, ma'am. We'll need to change that resolution letter to say November 9. Instead of
We can do that.
because we're not going to take any action tonight.
I will make sure we get that done.
So is that matching? Oh, you say 1-to-1, is that us matching the funds or something?
From donations, from
500?
Mm-hmm. So what we're looking for is, what they've recommended to us is to try to get, in the next couple of months, at least $10,000. I know it's a little small amount in comparison, but it shows that we're willing to do the work, and we are willing to do the work. And I'll get that changed. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Receive and discuss October 1st MFP count and per school student count. Costs. Dr. Eloy.
Yes, ma'am. I think we've been talking about this probably since June. actually maybe a little earlier. I think it kind of was a discussion when we first got our demographic report back from Mr. Hefner, if y'all recall, and we spoke about some realities moving forward with our budget. If you look at our sales tax reports since 2017, we have consistently grown in those past 6 years, month to month, year to year. And so you've seen an influx in sales tax dollars that have helped us to cover costs. What we are now experiencing, and we don't have this month's sales tax report, but I can tell you it was slightly in the negative, which puts us overall for the year as a negative balance, or not negative balance, but negative increase, or I'm sorry, a decrease from year to year. And so that's a first in 6 years. At the same time, we have had decreasing student counts, which unfortunately has continued this year, but as we discussed with Mr. Hefner, we expected that. So we have stalling sales tax, which is one of our big suppliers of revenue. We have continual decrease in student count, which directly impacts how much money we receive from the state and MFP. And then at the same time, you might say, well, why are you bringing this up now? Well, I'm bringing it up now because, again, we had that increased sales tax dollars over the past 6 years. And at the same time, we had indirect costs from ESSER funding. Indirect costs from ESSER funding combined with sales tax was able to, for lack of a better term, subsidize some of these decreases in student count. Does everyone follow that so far? And so really, despite the fact that no one would have invited COVID, COVID was kind of a way to keep us going in spite of the fact that we saw these decreasing numbers. We receive around $5,900 per student for the state allocation of MFP. So no one's going to just take that $5,900 and use that to educate our students. It's just not practical. You wouldn't have a functional system. So there's the local allocation. And, in talking with Mr. Wascom, what we really want to be, in terms of what we bring in and when we budget, we really want to be in a, and this is on a kind of a spectrum, or a scale rather, you really want to be somewhere between $3,100 and $4,100 in the local allocation per student. And if you look at what I've done for you, and this was at the request of Mr. Benefield, you have every school. They were in no particular order, and then I just sorted them by that cost. So that's why it's done in the way it's done. But it starts with your student count from 10 years ago. It gives you the student count from 5 years ago, and it gives you your current student count. Now, I do need to, there are 2 asterisks that at the bottom. What they'll tell you is, number one, this does not include your pre-K students or your overage special education students. Obviously, the larger group there being your pre-K students, they are not counted in the MFP formula because we receive federal funds for them. The other asterisks are next to schools that their structure was significantly different prior to banding. So it's kind of not comparing apples to apples. So I have segregated these into different categories. If you look at the bottom, the gold, no pun intended, but that kind of means they're golden. Those are really good, efficient areas. I can give you a reason why eLab is very efficient. Well, that's because they are typically fully staffed or fully populated in terms of students, and they have been at those ratios forever, and they typically actually have larger classes. Another issue with the lab schools is that their support for their facilities is covered by Northwestern. Correct. So you have Provençal, Natchez Central, the Virtual Academy, and eLab. Very good there. That means, like eLab, we're only spending around $2,100 in local allocation for those students from the MFP. So that's really good. Then you get this group in green. We actually think they're good. We would actually like some of those higher 9,000s to be a little lower, but those are pretty good. The yellow means, just like a stop signal. We're a little worried about them. That we need to be cautious. Those are getting a little too high for comfort. And the red, those are the 3 schools that we are most concerned about, because just to take, for example, the top one, you're talking about a state allocation of $5,900, and you're almost at $11,000 from a local allocation. So, what does this all mean? What I can tell you, again, I'm going to go back to the beginning. We have stagnant sales tax, if not decreasing. It's slightly decreasing right now. We're hopeful, but again, hope, what do you do with that? But we're hoping it will just stagnate, not decrease. So you have that. So we're not going to get anything additional from sales tax. You also have, we lost 200 students year to year. Multiply 200 by about $6,000, you get 1.2 million. Okay? At the same time, September of 2024, you heard Ms. Rachel speak about it. You've heard me speak about it. That's when ESSER funding goes away. So next year, we will not be receiving indirect costs any longer. So when you look at budgeting for next year, you really need to be able to either create $2.5 to $3 million in new revenue. I don't think we can make a bake sale that'll accommodate that. Or you need to trim your costs by $2.5 to $3 million. This is something that we expected. I think Mr. Benefield months back told you that based on the demographic study, within 5 years, I think it was more of a $4 million shortfall. But this is what I'm presenting to you now to start a discussion of what is next. Mr. Benefield?
Actually, I prepared some facts and essentially reiterates what the superintendent said. I asked him to create 4 tiers. One was critical, one was concerned, and that's our yellow. Good is green, and of course, gold is gold. With MMP funding at $5,938.10 per student, the rest is made up through general fund. And so, you know, your local contribution comes from property tax, sales tax, and other sources, and of course, ESSER, and it's going away. And so we've got a couple that we're paying at the $5,000 per student level, and we just can't sustain that. We can't keep doing that. We've got to do something different, and we've got to figure out how we're going to raise revenue or lower costs, and that's essentially it. There's an article that came out, and the superintendent called it to my attention, that there's so many school systems in Louisiana that are not preparing for the revenue shortfall that's coming. And we've seen one of our surrounding districts already see some of that. We need to be proactive and not get caught in this situation. And so, like I said, he said, you've heard me say in these town hall meetings, we could see up to $4 million. Well, we're at 2.5 to 3 right now.
Just to ask some questions from looking at this, why would Middle Lab cost so much more per student than E-Lab? Because they have the same thing with the facilities as E-Lab
Yeah, but the
does.
student count.
So over the past 3 years, capacity really at Middle Lab is really 180.
180.
And when you make a change at Middle Lab of just those 10 to 20 students, it causes, and I have a spreadsheet I can show y'all that what we do is we literally put in a new student count, and it'll show you in some of these places, literally that 20 student shift will take it. When I put a full 180, it was in that 9, maybe even actually below 9 in the more 8,000. But that's how important it is for those schools, because there's no way to, you go from 180 to 160, there's no way to remove staff based on that. You still have the same staff.
Right. I mean, we're talking 6.5 students per grade, 3 students per class.
Yeah.
And that means it costs over $3,000 more per student.
I'd have to,
because we dropped 20 kids. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's wild.
yeah,
right?
I'd have to show you the actual spreadsheet because it does a really good job. But yes, and now in some cases, you can detract more students at, for instance, Natchez Central, and it doesn't have as much of a swing. But then in some of these other places, literally 10, 15, 20 students makes a significant swing in cost. And let me just remind y'all, we actually did spreadsheet after spreadsheet. We did some that included federal funds. We did some that included every dollar that's in there. This is purely based on the general fund amount. So what we did is we took every staff member at that school and if they're paid out of general funds. If they're not paid out of general funds, they were excluded. But we took that, and that's our main issue there, or our main cost. And then we took that and divided it by the student number, and that really gets you where that is.
There's a couple of more things. We've been actually talking about this since June, the numbers, and we said in November we were going to roll these numbers out when the October counts were official. The superintendent is hoping sales tax will flatten and stabilize. I don't see that. I see it's going to decrease because you look at the interest rate in homes, it's 8%. It's raising. If you look at the sales tax, we've been growing steadily for 6 years. Inflation's at a 40-year high. Your money buys less. MFP, which was promised to be funded every year, has been funded, a couple of times in the last decade?
Yep.
You're looking at everything that can happen to lower your buying ability and your education of your students is going on. 40-year high inflation, new homes, so you're not getting that kind of money. When you build a new home, you're spending a lot of sales tax on a lot of different items. Washington, D.C. really has lost their mind. They're not helping us out.
Well, I'm going down there in a few weeks. I'll
Okay, straight.
express that to
There
them.
you go. Thank you, Superintendent, for that.
Do we have a financial advisor? Other than Mr. Wascom?
So,
No, I'm not, I'm not
no,
trying to be funny, but somebody outside that can look at the numbers and give us direction on what to do.
So I will tell you, there are companies that will charge you a large amount. I know, for instance, a local district went to a company called Lean Frog, and they specifically look where you can find money. Now, they will charge you about $60,000 for 3 months, and then they will tell you, hey, you can save money by doing these things. The things they're telling you to do, they're pretty rudimentary. They're pretty obvious.
Staffing formulas.
Things of that nature. You're paying a lot of money for them to do the groundwork on. And again, if you're in a Caddo where there's a $500 million district, you might be able to find a few million. But I'll be honest with you, Ms. Tankia, our budget, and this has nothing to say about our department not being just as skilled, but it's pretty straightforward. We have this much money coming in. We have this much cost. And, I mentioned that we could recover revenue. I say that just as a factual matter, but there's no discovery of new revenue that this is really about cost-cutting measures. It's not about finding new streams of revenue, because what would those be? They don't exist outside of taxes and measures of that nature. And I don't think.
So what is priority? Well, not priority, but
Well,
what would you consider?
I don't think I can.
first?
I don't think I can answer that question to you today, because I think something of this magnitude, when you're talking about $2.5 to $3 million, it's not something. I'll tell you, I've thought about it. Of course, I've thought about it, but it's something that I first think y'all need to have the full picture, which you now have. Y'all need to have discussion, and then whether it be Lee, myself, Miss Page, all the directors, it's us sitting down and looking at a myriad of options. But I feel like it would be a little flippant for me to just throw out some stuff right now, because I really think that deserves a significant amount of attention and time and respect to something of such a magnitude, if that makes sense.
It's 10 key. If you look at 85 to 87% of our budget is actually people. And so you may save $1 or $2 on a pack of paper or some pencils here, there, and yonder, but it's not significant. But
if, these schools that's costing us a bunch of money, I know nobody like to hear about closing schools. We just gonna have to bite the bullet and close it, because we can't bus a child from over here in East Natchitoches all the way to Lakeview or something like that. It's just, if the number's not there, why should we take from the schools here, or even take from Provençal to put at a school that don't have to take the money from that? So we are robbing the schools that's funding themselves to keep pouring water in a leaking bucket. Because you just proven fact with these schools that these numbers dropping, it's no growth there. So I know nobody like to hear closing schools, but every parish around us is closing schools that don't have the numbers in it.
Ms. McTwire, you bring up an interesting point, and what I'd like to do is task the superintendent, the staff, to go back and present a comprehensive plan next month at the December meeting to not only talk about schools, but talk about the whole structure of our district and where we can consolidate in different areas, and it makes sense to collapse some things. And then let us look at it as a board in December and see what our system would look like next year. And now we can tweak everything that they present. We can look at it at different ways. But it gives us the opportunity to take a first cut at it, first bite of the apple. It also gives us the opportunity to talk to our constituents. It also gives us the opportunity to get feedback from the public. It gives us the opportunity to really do a comprehensive study on what we think we can do. Now, as a board, ultimately, the decision is ours. But the superintendent and staff are going to make some recommendations. At least I hope they do. And I'm tasking the superintendent and the staff to do that so we can have adequate time to talk about this. And some of those things may come to fruition, just like you said. But I encourage you, board members, to contact the superintendent and provide your input and whatever ideas that you may have. And sooner would be better than later.
And I was going to say, Mr. Benfield, I don't have any issue working with staff to come up with a plan, but I very much, when we're talking about the things we're talking about here just in the first 5 minutes of this discussion, I would very much appreciate every board member reaching out. If not a phone call, a face-to-face would be preferable. So I can say that I spoke to every board member in the genesis of this project.
Well, Chad and I especially want to meet with you and Lee about some things, some options that I think, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to lose their school, but I do know this: if we don't want to lose our schools, we're willing to pay one way or the other not to lose them. So that's what we'd like to talk about.
I appreciate that. And I would ask that before we go to the conversation of such a drastic thing, that we exhaust every other option, right? That we
Right.
can,
Absolutely.
in a
that
meeting
gives
of
us a
minds,
couple of
come up
months.
with.
Gives us a couple of months to look at this. I mean, let's don't rush into anything.
It's
to
our
jump right to
responsibility
that,
as a board to leave every stone unturned, you know, or no stone unturned. And, you know, you talk about a process, starting that process. I think these community outreaches and meetings is part of that process. And,
Right.
you know, sometimes the process
It was.
long. And low numbers is probably part of the new world for Natchitoches. I mean, it is part of it, and it's something we're going to have to learn to work around for the next several years, probably. That's what our studies is, you know. So I think it's our responsibility to explore every option that we can before we go straight to a closure.
Well, and let me just say too, because I take this, what you're putting to me as a part of my job, but probably the most serious endeavor or conversation we have had since I've been here. And I just want the board to understand whatever I bring to the table is to produce options for you. It is not necessarily that there's no agenda on my part. There's no community or anything that I bear ill will against or anything of that nature. This is about, I feel I have a fiduciary responsibility to do to present to you what I feel are the best options. And so what my call is for is that as we start this process of discussion, this board has been, I would say, is the best board that Natchitoches has ever had. And I just implore you through this time that we are able to maintain our unity in spite of very tense and difficult conversations.
Especially hearing what Ms. Noel articulated so clearly and awesome, the future of this district. I would hate for us to get overly engaged in a situation that may not be something that's going to be permanent, but a temporary thing, you know, because I believe that when you offer some of the best, people start to move in. people start to buy in, people start to bite in, and taste and see that Natchitoches is good, you know.
Well, I would just like to add, building on what you said, these numbers, in my opinion, do not take into the fact the great things going on in our parish, the growth and the wonderful things we have coming down the pipe. And I would hate to see us talk about closing a school when we don't know what next year holds. We don't know if the small schools that popped up over the past year will even be here next year or the year after. And I would hate for the public to think that we're thinking about closing the school when in actuality we're not. As of tonight, I mean, there's nothing on the table saying that, so I don't want anybody in the public to think those 3 schools are on the chopping block. This just numbers letting us know that we need to be concerned.
Right.
And I
And
do
we've
believe in
been
our
working
product.
in that direction, Ms. Phelps, you're right.
I believe in our product. I believe in the kids that we're putting out in the system, and I just don't feel, well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I feel like that will be seen in the numbers next year. I just have to believe that. And I would hate for us to make a quick decision not knowing what that looks like.
But what if the numbers, we thinking the numbers gonna grow, what if they go lower? Then we gonna still keep, these
Yeah,
schools open if
very
the
fair
numbers
point.
even go lower?
Very fair point. And you're speaking from a place where, I hate to be so blunt about it, these numbers lied to the board a few years ago.
That's right.
And we made I say we, the board
Bad
prior to us made a horrible decision in closing Clucherville because that's where the kids are now. That's where the population is. And the board prior to us made a horrible decision. So you're speaking from a place of deception, not on your part, but the board was deceived by these numbers. And so I trust where these numbers came from. I know numbers don't lie, but people do, but I believe the people that put this together, and the board didn't have that same confidence whenever these numbers were presented when they closed Clucherville. So I totally understand what you're saying.
We had a bunch of fools on the board then.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know.
And I can say
Let's
this.
just say we're in
also-
we're in a better place today.
It's also, look, it's also fair to say
Bunch of
these
fools,
numbers,
that's what we had on the
these
board.
numbers are painting one picture of a school.
Absolutely.
So if we were to put up numbers of which schools have grown substantially over the last decade, the list would look completely different, right?
Well,
And so I think
you're right.
just to look at this and
Yeah,
to have
this
it
has nothing to do with
color-coded with
academics.
certain schools, you know, in this way, I mean, we should be looking at 4 different charts if we're even having a conversation around closing a school.
Well,
But just to
we need
put
to
this
leave
up and then
our-
to have that conversation is very,
you're right, you're right.
And we need to leave our mind open. If the numbers that not there, we gonna have to close the schools if the numbers not there, because we can't, it's the reality check.
Well, but-
That, you know, we can't say we not gonna close them.
Right.
But if the numbers is not there, we can't just keep, like I say, keep pouring water in a
so-
leaking bucket.
I'm going to be
members.
creating this plan, so I can tell y'all my thought process going in is I'm not going in with a thought of closure. I'm going in with me and Mr. Wascom and the team exhausting every intellectual avenue to address all these things. And I guess I would call closure a nuclear option, only to be exercised in the most extreme cases where there is no other option. And so, and listen, I think we're pretty smart guys. Through talking with y'all and all those things, we are going to exhaust all those options. And I will tell you, as I have heard the discussions over my 4 years being here of the Clucherville situation, and not even the board, but just the parents, the students, the teachers, the board members, the staff members who went through that. Number one, if we get to that point, it's not something I would take lightly, but it's not something I necessarily want to jump into. I don't think any superintendent, any board member does. And so I can assure you that I will exhaust every avenue at our disposal to prevent that if at all possible.
I just think our board has a great opportunity to show the public how we're going to work together through this and make good decisions for the whole parish. I think we've all learned from our neighboring parishes what it looks like when you hop into something with no research and lots of hurt feelings and not a lot of information. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to show the public how well we can work together and make a good informed decision.
Board members
And I know, but
is everyone okay? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I know before, you know, we could take kids from here and bring them there, But you're looking at the numbers, if we take from this school to put to that school, then the number's gonna drop at that school, and we're in the same situation. We don't have the kids to bus them to keep the schools open.
Right, that's not going.
So I think what I would look at doing is making sure, I want to look at those yellow and red and see how I can get them to either green or gold. And so my proposal would be very much in thinking, how can that be done?
And this is district-wide, this isn't just schools.
No.
This is
Because
just, it's
even if we look at Provençal, because of what happened to Clutcheville, Provençal became overpopulated.
They're busting at the seams.
Right. And so, you know, it really, you know, it messes with me to see our schools, the outlining schools, that all except for Provençal, looking that way. And we know Provençal looks that way simply because of the decision that was made.
But you look at the numbers with Provençal, even 2018, you had 535 kids. And
Right.
it even dropped down to 417. So
Yeah.
they-
That's
they
with the
lost-
kids from
they
Clutcheville,
lost
right?
within,
they're down.
uh,
That's what the Clutcheville kids do, yeah.
Yeah, with Clutcheville kids coming into
Yeah.
that. So look how much they done lost already, you know, so it's showing everybody losing.
We see
It
that
is.
trend.
And we knew it, and we
We're
know
not
it.
going. We're not going to back up from being realistic about what's happening. But
And I think what Ms. Phelps said, I agree with, because I do think there are some entities that we're losing students to that, and it's nothing against those individual entities. It's just traditionally, historically, those things don't normally last as, we have staying power. I'll put it that way. My concern is, in talking with Mr. Hefner, is that, you know, he really didn't talk about homeschools, private schools, and that nature. His was purely about the demographic trends in terms of our region and our parish, which, when he looks at that, he looks at how many homes are being built, how many industries are coming in, how many new transportation projects are happening, et cetera, all these harbingers of population. And when I think I've shared this with y'all, when I do the gain-loss report for like the last 100 students, and I haven't done it recently, but the last time I did it, something like 85% of those students, if not 90, were students who were leaving the parish to go to Orleans Parish. Well, you're not commuting in that respect. Or they're going to Oklahoma, exit to Dallas, exit to California. And so my concern is, I'm afraid some of us will view this as a exodus to homeschool, when in reality, I think this is more about a downward trend in population in general in our state, in our region of the state, and then even more specifically in our parish. And so I'm like Ms. Phelps, I do believe groups are coming back. They come back every day. But that's still, that coming back, even if everyone comes back, will still not negate the population trends happening in our state and region right now.
Yeah, and we see it. But board members, is everyone okay with us taking our time and doing this and looking at this in December? And with the staff's recommendations, or at least the options that they provide? Are we okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay, 100% okay, to look at it and make sure we're
then-
going the right way, because what went on with the Clutcheville,
You're right,
and
Mr.
we just
Dwyer.
jumped into it, and within, in a week's time, they had made up the decision what they were gonna make, and I wouldn't even do that with any school, to jump into it just without doing it. That's why we got until next year school
I
starts.
think by January, we should have a clear picture.
Yeah.
We will have 60 days to discuss this, maybe even 75, depending on, because of the way the calendar is in our first meeting. And,
So just for my clarification, Mr. Benefield, I will be preparing you a plan, but that is for discussion only in December.
that's correct. And that as a board, we will take a look at what pieces seem to fit and what we need to tweak and what we need to accept as real and move on. And there'll be a lot of different moving pieces here. And that's going to be district-wide. It's not just schools. That's everywhere.
So I believe what I can also do, if y'all would like this, I can prepare the plan, and then Mr. Wascom and I would like to prepare this same chart for y'all with, if we put some plans in place, what the proposed cost per student of every school could be with this implemented.
I think it's a good idea.
Would that be-
That's another piece of the puzzle. And just like Mr. Nicholson said, but that's not the only indicator. Board members, we've got some really tough decisions coming up ahead of us, and
I have a
so,
question. Is there a way to do some type of study, when we do all these studies, to find out the amount of kids that are in our district that are going to out of district schools or private schools? Is that in that demographic study? Because I think that, you know, if we can pitch what we're selling to people, like we've talked about getting those people back. I mean, I think that, I know we're losing people. You know, there's not a lot of people moving here. I agree with that. That's a fact. But there are a lot of people here that are going other places.
So when Mr. Hefner did his study, he actually takes our large data file. It's based on the 911 database, but that does not include students who aren't in our database. So I have not heard of a study like that. I know every superintendent I talk to, it's a dual issue. They're happy when someone may use another address without them knowing and they come over, but they're equally as unhappy when it's done to them. I've never met anyone who really has a way of, because people aren't going to be really open with that. And I have not met anyone. I can reach out to maybe Bob Hammonds, who started this with us, and Mike Hefner, and ask if there's a way, but I personally don't know of one.
and there's also a deal, you take like the Robeline address, Robeline, Louisiana address, is Powhatan, Robeline.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a
Same thing.
huge.
Goldana, Saline.
Reed Hammer has
So they may already have the address. It depends on, so board members were okay with the superintendent pulling that together? And then we'll talk about it. Okay. All right. You can have it for December?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Good deal. All right.
And-
Thank y'all.
And just in my thinking, there may be lots of details to this, but I'm really thinking some sort of one pager with the high points, so you get like the general picture and not just a ton of extra minutia or whatever. I'm just thinking kind of a one pager for y'all's digestion, and then the details to be filled in.
Thank you. And board members, thank y'all for this discussion, but just remind, and just like Ms. Phelps said, is we have a spirit of cooperation, and let's keep that in mind. This is for our students.
And no one is closing schools.
That's the loudest I've ever heard you, Mr.
Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Dinky.
Spoken to the mic
He
that
spoke
time.
into the mic.
Okay, 7D, discuss and consider Marthaville cafeteria bids. Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, I would ask, just looking at these numbers, the anticipated cost initially of the cafeteria was around $2 million. The bids have come in at 3.2. That's a lot more than what we were originally expecting to spend on that, and at our current BRE level, that gets awful close to that. So I'm asking that we reject bids for the new cafeteria at this point in time, put it on hold, and we'll either look at redoing the plans at a lower cost or wait till a lower time. Right. We're not in an emergency situation right now with the cafeteria. I feel like that would be the financially responsible thing to do.
Okay. 7E, discuss and consider remodel of interior of central office. Mr. Benefield.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Board members, we've got an opportunity in front of us, and I know we're talking about money, but this is something that's a little crazy. It kind of fell in our lap. The air conditioner in this building is going to be replaced. It's going to be done 100% with ESSER money. But there's also an opportunity for us to take a building that was built in 1979 and has not been freshened up except for this room, and with a small investment of around $100,000, instead of $500,000, remodel this entire office and change some security issues and do things like that. The AC was replaced in 2002. The carpet that most people are walking on is 30 years old. 40. And, I mean, we have an opportunity to do something here that's, to remodel this entire office on a piggyback of an ESSER funded, 100% funded deal. Now, there's some asbestos in the bathrooms, and that may drive a little cost to abate that asbestos, but this is an opportunity, and we still have the safeguard at the end. If we don't like it, just like Mr. Nicholson suggested, we just reject the bid. But the thing here is Mr. Wascom is gonna send out two different bids. One's for the AC, standalone, and the other would be for the rest of the project. And, right now he's looking at the numbers that I was told, and again, I haven't seen anything hard on paper. It's a little over $100,000 to remodel the entire thing, and that's a pretty good deal. So is there any questions on that?
You said that would be Esser?
So,
That
so
AC would be.
In general.
So what happens is, with they're gonna have to get up in the ducts and do all this stuff, and there might also be, Esser's all about clean air and airflow and all that fun stuff. But, this was done in '79. There's been walls that have been put up since then, and kind of patched into the system. And so there's gonna be a need to move walls. All we're asking is, when they're doing this, we can dictate some of the wall movement. We can also make sure that all the walls look like this instead of whatever the heck that is out there, that paper mache 70s nastiness. We'd do all that, and then we'd also put the flooring to equal either the carpet that's in the new offices or this flooring. And so we believe between, the drywall and the flooring and possibly some abatement on the
We have to abate.
yeah, I'm sorry. Not possibly. The abatement on the, I was fine keeping it, but apparently the ladies don't like the restroom.
Ladies don't like the
asbestos.
restroom.
No, I don't want go to the
Number
bathroom
one,
no more with asbestos.
Number one priority.
See, in order to,
Well, it's okay.
But,
in order to
okay,
fix it,
so explain the general fund ESSER 3.
So what it is ESSER will only pay for things dealing with the AC. So,
Okay.
so it would not be allowable, and Ms. Rachel will hurt me, if I was like, hey, ESSER can pay for floors because they're COVID clean floors or something crazy like that. And so anything over and above the airflow piece, the AC piece, would be in excess of that. So we're specifically talking about floors and some drywall work.
so
And the abatement, sorry.
it's basically two bids. It's the ESSER section, and then it's called an additional bid. That would be the general fund side.
So how much are the general?
What would you expect from those?
Well, after I heard about the asbestos part, somewhere between 100 and probably 150,000.
Of
Esser wouldn't pay for the,
Oh, now out of ESSER, no, out of,
abatement. Esser wouldn't pay for that. They'd say fresh air. That's the.
well, because it's in the floor. If it was in the ceiling,
right.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's the glue that glues down the
Mastic.
floor tile. We're gonna have to jackhammer to add some additional, we have to come into compliance with the new handicap, and they don't have a full handicap 5x5 handicap. So we're gonna add space to the women's bathroom.
Let me put this in perspective for y'all. This entire room right here, which I think y'all would all appreciate how amazing this room is. Lee, what would that come to?
It's about 70.
$70,000. Now,
We
obviously,
did everything.
We did everything. We did the lighting. We did this amazing piece of furniture here.
We're not
That was-
buying any mahogany, anything. So
That was
don't worry about
$70,000. You're talking about at most double that to do the whole building. And so we really, I know it's an awkward space to talk about some of the things we talked about tonight, and then this. There's
Kind of
no-
why, yeah, that's why.
There's no denying that. But what I can tell you is a few things. You're in a time and place where you have an option to do this that'll affect it. I can also tell you, no matter what the optics looks like, $150,000 from general is not going to correct any of those problems up there. And again, I know districts who are making these Taj Mahals of district offices, and they're amazing, and I love that they have that money. But you're never going to have this option again, because if you want to do it from here on out, you're going to
be destroying your
exponentially-
grid. You'll be destroying the grid and having to relocate everything.
Yeah, and so like Mr. Wascom mentioned tonight earlier, and when I asked him a question about it, air conditioner was replaced in 2002, but they didn't replace the ductwork. It's still original ductwork. I mean, this stuff's old.
So the ductwork doesn't go over the bathroom, in the women's bathroom?
They're gonna, so basically what would happen is, well, actually, even if we don't remodel the building, when that building opens, which we've already been told that we should be in there late January, what we'll do is we would all move over there. This building would be abandoned for 3 months, because they'll be in the ceilings, everything, and during that time, they could also be doing the floor and all that. 3 months later, we're back over here, business as usual.
So mahogany toilet seats, you
No,
said?
no,
No, I didn't say
Oh,
that.
I was just wondering.
Standard toilets.
You said something about, moving walls, does that
There's, that would,
involve
well, it
enlarging any offices where you have
No,
2
actually,
or 3 people
well,
kind of crowded?
an interesting thing, and Mr. Walscomb, I think, is going to present the actual floor plan of what this looks like to y'all next week. Right now, he has it, but it's just in his Wascom chicken scratch, not an official thing.
It's currently at the engineer, the architect.
The engineers.
Architect.
My office would actually decrease by 50%.
Wow.
Because I'm just that much of a servant leader. I want to give my office to other people.
That is
But no, in all
By a
seriousness,
third. I'd say by a third.
by a third, it's going to decrease. One of the main issues, and Ms. Page has brought this up more than anyone, is in our current climate, people walk into this building and can access any office at any time. If you go into most central offices, they now have the ability to kind of direct and then section off areas where you may have to buzz in.
There's a police officer at the front door, and good luck trying to get to any office.
And
most of you.
we have very passionate people who come to our office who are in the state of anger and things of that nature. So part of this is also to make sure that when those people come in, that they have enough time to calm down, and then when they go to HR, they're buzzed in, and they're only buzzed in if they're in a proper state of mind. And you don't have access to any of that side of the building unless Ms. Fobb buzzes you in. Because right now, guys, we're wide open. We really are.
Can't you just do a camera for the front door entrance too?
We already have
So you
cameras.
can see who's coming
Yes,
in.
ma'am.
That's a great safety.
Yeah.
Because
So
people just walk in, as you say, they have access to go in anybody's office.
Let's wait for the specifics, but I think this is the opportunity to piggyback on a project that Esther's paying for and make this a 40-year-old building a little bit more, 44-year-old building, a little bit more up to date. Yes.
We have a bid, our proposal was for the replacement of the HVAC system. And so that's very important that we have a clear distinction between what's happening with all of these measures that you guys just, sorry, forgot about the mic. It's very important to make a distinction between what was the capital project that was approved for Esther and all of the great things that you're talking about safety and things of that nature, that those are separate. And Dr. Eloy and Lee and I spoke today, and that's why we're doing 2 proposals, right? We're doing an alternate proposal. Yes. So I just get a little nervous when we talk about piggybacking and things of that nature, because we want to make sure that we are in compliance with what was granted as approved for our district, and that is the HVAC system for added safety as related to COVID-19 and other illnesses being decreased due to the increase in a more efficient air quality. So I just want to go on record of saying that's where we are now with the bid process is going to be for an HVAC system replacement, and then we have an additional bid for something different.
2 separate bids, but it's.
because we don't want to have to pay back
Right.
federal.
That is correct.
If we're gonna get kicked out of the building and while this work's being done,
Might as well, but pay for it with something else.
checks in the mail.
Dr. Elo, are you saying the $150,000 wouldn't affect what we just talked about earlier? I agree with that, but, there is such thing as public perception, so we need to keep that in mind with what we have going on right now the next few months and making other spendings out of general fund. Because 150,000, 150,000, 150, that adds up. And a lot of times we found some more money here, we found some more money there, so.
No, you have to be very aware of the messaging that goes out to the public. And I don't think the general public is always, I shouldn't say it this way because it sounds condescending, but there's a lot of confusion about how districts are funded in the different buckets. And we could do a class on it, and it probably still wouldn't sink into most folks because they don't live in it every day like we do. But you're right. I mean, you have to be cognizant of that and make sure people don't think you're saying one thing and then doing another.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's it.
Oh, that concludes finance.
Thank you, Ms. Tankia. Ms. Page? Ms.
Oh,
Page?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Danson's not here.
Yeah, these are actually my items under Ms. Page's personnel report.
Okay.
So as Ms. Kathy, or Ms. Noel said, this is the job description for the TAP master teacher. And you can, I will not read this all to you. It's really in line, it's very similar to what the instructional specialists were doing, but there is a deeper level based on what NIAT, to be a full TAP district, as Ms. Noel said, and to have that title. But I will respect your intelligence and not read all of that to y'all. And if you have any questions about that over the next week, please get back to me. But this very much is kind of taken from NIT and kind of boilerplate for them.
Does the stipend change much from the current instructional?
So we're talking about that. Ms. Kathy, if there will be any changes, that will be discussed in the spring when we do changes to salary schedule. The only reason that they possibly would change would be due to budgeting. I think we've already had to make some budget adjustments, but we are not at the point now where we can say that they.
So there aren't, like TAP doesn't define how much a master teacher should make and how. They give you guidelines.
They give you a minimum and a maximum.
Yeah.
And so, we're kind of walking in the middle of that range.
Yep.
But we have to get, the federal department to actually approve that before we can openly discuss it.
Yep.
And so, I can say we're going to actually put in, a little extra than what we're currently doing with our instructional specialist. It is dependent upon their approval.
Gotcha.
But I think we'd probably be ready for that discussion March, April-ish is.
I would think so,
Yeah.
yes. And, same for the mentor teacher.
Correct, yeah.
Who is currently the lead teacher, same idea. It's within a range, we're going for the middle of that range, and it is actually a little more than what we're currently doing with our ESSER funds, that's funding that at the moment.
Go ahead and take your executive master teacher.
Mr. Watson, if you can move to executive master teacher. The difference here, obviously, it's a larger position in terms of
It's 12 months also.
and it's also 12 months. So they are they report to Ms. Kathy as the project director, but they are really I hate to use the word manage because that's not the word I'm looking for, but they are supervising or leading. That's the word I'm looking for. They are leading the master teachers in that work. And a lot of if you've seen us having a lot of our PD with our instructional specialists over the year, we didn't have an executive master teacher. We had someone from NIT who was kind of in that role. And so I always ask districts, I'm like, hey, when you have coaches, who feeds your coaches? And they're like, what do you mean? We have a cafeteria. And I say, no, who's feeding them in terms of what they're taking and then learning and then taking to the schools. So the executive master teacher, in effect, is feeding the master teachers.
And this is one district level position.
One district level position, completely paid for by Strong. And then the last one, written into the grant was also a bookkeeper. Well, if you recall, we've had some departures in the payroll department and some movement. Ms. Pat Rock retired and Ms. Carol retired. And so we have hired Ms. Deborah Dunn, and she took Ms. Pat's role, and Ms. Anitra Davis moved over to Ms. Carol's role. But Ms. Anitra Davis, who's the benefits coordinator, that position is empty. So we had a need to fill that role. It was already budgeted. We've had it before. It's always been there. Well, we have to use a portion of the Strong budget to fund a 50% of a position. I think it's $27,000.
That's correct.
Plus benefits.
And the intent here is to give you all this position, but not have to have a general fund.
Yeah.
For your benefits coordination.
Yeah.
We will help out by allowing them to serve on the bookkeeper side of Strong.
So Ms. Anitra's previous position, which we used to pay 100% out of general, will now be, we will hire someone new. I think we placed that ad up today. we would hire someone new, and 50% of their salary will now be coming from the Strong Grant. So we're actually saving general fund some money there.
Any questions, board members? Thank you, Ms. Page. Ms. Reba.
Item number 9, executive report. 9A, discuss and consider superintendent contract on the second Thursday meeting.
Okay. Mr. Danzy and Mr. McTwire and Ms. Reba have been talking about this, and so I would encourage you to contact any one of these three folks to put targets together for goals for the superintendent's contract. We're looking at extending it. I think he's earned some. He's all right.
I mean, has he?
I'll remember that next time you text me, Mr. Fredu. Gonna put that on read receipt.
I think he's earned some consideration, and please contact those folks sooner than later. We'd like to get that out to you by email for you to study first part, and then we can bring it in on Thursday and look at where we land. Ms. Reba?
Okay, that concludes the executive report.
Thank you. Now, board members, again, thank y'all for your cooperation and your consideration. We've got a lot of tough topics coming up here in the next 75 to 80 days. District 11, Provençal-Clutchville. Please go out and vote. Vote early and vote often. Thank y'all. See you next Thursday.
Vote often. You get a sticker for